The name Richard Childress once held a sense of fear to other NASCAR teams. They were once one of the most formidable opponents in NASCAR history, having drivers such as Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Kevin Harvick behind the wheel. But now the legacy of Richard Childress Racing is being spoiled by the owner himself. Recently, the team made a shocking statement, which has not sat well with the entire NASCAR community. One of the drivers in Richard Childress Racing is Austin Dillon, the grandson of Richard Childress himself. Austin is one of the least liked drivers on the grid, thanks to his mediocre skills in racing. On more than one occasion, other drivers have suffered because of his reckless actions on the track. The only reason he's on the Cup Series grid is because his grandfather owns a NASCAR team. Now, Richard Childress has used his connections in Kaulig Racing to get his other grandson, Ty Dillon, a seat at the NASCAR Cup Series. Kaulig Racing will be getting rid of Daniel Hemrick, who just started his full-time Cup Series career with Kaulig Racing this year. And if you're just coming across this channel for the first time, you just found the best channel for the latest news on NASCAR, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Kaulig Racing themselves admitted that the decision was driven by their alliance with Richard Childress Racing. In a statement, Matt Kaulig said, "Ty has done a really great job for us this year in our number 16 car, competing in a limited schedule. He has been consistent each time he gets in the car and has really helped our program grow this season. We think he will be instrumental in continuing our Cup program in alliance with Richard Childress Racing." After this statement was released, the fans were quick to show some hate on social media. "Talk about buying a fucking ride. What a waste. Thanks RC for another waste of a Cup car in the track," said one member of the NASCAR community. "I get it. Racing is a business. Pay drivers are a thing. Nepotism is a thing. But damn, the whole Dillon brothers situation is just so off-putting. Pop seems more interested in using NASCAR as a plaything for his spoiled grandkids than actually fielding or funding rides for talented drivers," a fan said on social media. Another fan said, "Nepotism at its finest. Kaulig is already half a joke/mystery to have done a full-time ride for AJ last year in Cup, then full-time Xfinity and part-time this year Cup ride, and now back to full-time in Cup with AJ in this Yahoo. They won't have good races, but they're going to be great at burning money." This will not even be Ty Dillon's first season in the Cup Series. He drove for Germain Racing from 2017 to 2020, for Petty GMS Motorsports in 2022, and then for Spire Motorsports in 2023. In the years he was not a full-time Cup Series driver, he drove part-time for various NASCAR teams. During these 7 years of racing full-time, Ty only managed to get 5 top 10 results. Considering this fact, we can be sure that both the Dillon brothers are here in NASCAR only because of their rich grandfather. Or as a NASCAR fan stated on Twitter, nepotism at its finest. Kaulig Racing's current driver Daniel Hemrick has shown a lot more promise than Ty Dillon. Daniel has only participated in the Cup Series as a full-time driver for 2 years, in 2019 and now in 2024. However, in just these 2 years of full-time racing, Daniel has managed to get 5 top 10 finishes, a feat that took Ty Dillon 7 years to accomplish. Daniel has also been showing a lot of promise this season. 4 of his 5 top 10 finishes came this year. Back in 2021, he even won the Xfinity Championship, which saw him get a lot of attention. Given his talent in NASCAR, there's no doubt that we will see Daniel race again in NASCAR. Hopefully, nepotism will not take him away from the grid again. After Kaulig Racing made the announcement, Daniel released the following statement on social media. "The desire to win on Sundays will always burn inside of me. I'm focused and full of intention to finish the last 7 races of this season as strong as we can, while continuing to build on whatever the next chapter of this journey holds for me." Matthew 17:20. Coming to why Kaulig Racing made this decision, there are some theories from NASCAR analyst Eric Estep. This is a money decision for Kaulig Racing. Ty Dillon obviously has connections to Richard Childress Racing, but he's been in racing for many years. He's built up some strong partnerships. He has loyal sponsors behind him. That's what this is. And to Ty Dillon's credit, being sponsor-friendly is half the job. It may even be more than half the job. I just believe in never giving up. And every time I feel like maybe my career in some people's eyes went down, I just worked harder. And I hope that this next chapter is a success chapter as far as results. But results aren't everything in life. You can barely control yourself. You can control your effort, and I've been really working hard when nobody looks in. If I had to pick between Ty Dillon and Daniel Hemrick, and all I cared about was ability behind the wheel, I would probably take Daniel Hemrick. They are similar in age, but Hemrick, at least more recently, has the stronger resume. Not sure where Daniel Hemrick ends up. We've seen sponsors like Kirkle, Poppybank follow him from place to place. So I'm sure he'll be able to bring that support somewhere. The guy is an Xfinity Series champion. We can't discount that, Estep added. While Ty Dillon gets an undeserved seat in NASCAR after a decision purely made by money, Daniel Hemrick will have to find another seat in the sport. In the past few weeks, Richard Childress has already received a lot of hate for giving his other grandson, Austin Dillon, a seat in his own team. During Playoff Media Day a few weeks back, a survey orchestrated by Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports during the NASCAR Cup Series Playoff Media Day sought to uncover which drivers were least favored by their peers during late race restarts, a critical moment that often defines race outcomes. The results were telling, with Dillon emerging as a focal point of criticism. Among the 16 drivers surveyed, 2 explicitly mentioned Dillon as their least preferred competitor to have alongside them during these high-stakes situations. One driver directly referenced recent events, implying a connection between past incidents and their current sentiment, while another driver remarked, "Austin Dillon, I can answer that one pretty easy," highlighting the consensus against Dillon. Richard Childress is already receiving so much hate for having Austin on the grid. His other grandson, Ty Dillon, is no better. Ty Dillon has had a challenging career in the NASCAR Cup Series, marked by inconsistent results and underwhelming performances compared to some of his peers. Despite coming from the legendary Dillon family, his grandfather is Richard Childress. He hasn't quite lived up to expectations in the top-tier Cup Series. Dillon began his full-time Cup career in 2017 with Germain Racing in the number 13 Chevrolet. While driving for a smaller team, which often lacks the resources and competitive equipment of powerhouse teams, Dillon struggled to find consistent speed. His best finish in his rookie season was a 13th place at Talladega, but overall his results were lackluster, with only one top 10 finish that year. Over the next few seasons, Dillon's performance didn't improve significantly. In 2020, his final season with Germain Racing, he finished 26th in points, without any top 5 finishes and only one top 10 finish, further emphasizing the gap between him and more competitive drivers. One major issue in Dillon's Cup Series tenure has been his inability to run consistently in the top 20 or 25. For a driver in his late 20s and early 30s, it's expected that progress would be more evident. However, Ty Dillon struggled with race pace, handling, and adapting to changing conditions, often finishing multiple laps down. After Germain Racing shut down in 2020, Dillon found part-time rides with Gaunt Brothers Racing and Petty GMS Motorsports, now Legacy Motor Club, in 2021 and 2022. But his fortunes didn't change. Even with improved resources at Petty GMS in 2022, Dillon was often a non-factor, finishing outside the top 30 in most races. He ended the 2022 season with a single top 10 finish, and was 29th in the point standings. While Ty Dillon's talent is evident, especially considering his success in the Xfinity and Truck Series, where he was more competitive, his transition to the Cup Series has been difficult. Whether it was underperforming equipment, a lack of team chemistry, or an inability to capitalize on race opportunities, his Cup Series results have failed to match the expectations set by his family name. Now it'll be interesting to see how Ty Dillon performs for Kaulig Racing, but from what we've seen from him so far, he will be another driver who will be hated like his brother. While Richard Childress Racing was a dominant team at one point, this year neither cars were qualified for the playoffs. RCR is probably at their lowest at this point. But with Richard Childress prioritizing his grandsons over talented drivers, the team can never come back to its original glory. For 2025, RCR will have Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch on their lineup, but given the reception RCR has been receiving from fans, Busch will most likely look for a way out of the team for 2026. If he manages to do so, Richard Childress could get Ty Dillon to the team, so RCR could be piloted by the 2 Dillon brothers. This is nepotism at its finest. Do you think Ty Dillon will do any better next year in the Cup Series? Or will he once again be a disappointment to his team and fans? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.